Okay, everybody, it is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, and there's a huge breakthrough on 3i Atlas that I'm going to share with you today. It's massive. And firstly, the paper, the physics paper of Avi Loeb is quite brilliant. There's a lot he's recognized, which I'm going to show you here. The first being that he believes 23i Atlas is so perfectly timed in its close approximation to the planets, it has to be not by chance. And it has to be organized in order for this to happen. So I'm going to show you what that actually looks like. So we're going to the Skywave. Right here. This is the Skywave. So, using JPL data, we now have, you can see it, this, what they think is, of course, a non-sentient comet that is so perfectly timed. You can see down at the bottom is today's date, and you can move this date around. Like I can go back a month, and you see it going backwards, back a month. That's back in May. And you can see if I keep going here, it was at Jupiter's orbit about January the 26th, right there. Okay, so this little model here will tell me where it's going to be and Avi Loeb on certain dates. And Avi Loeb has noted its date for its closest approximation to Earth. And that's the first stunning thing. So its close approximation to Earth is going to be winter solstice. And you'll see this year's. So we're going to go to, I'm going to keep going all the way. Well, let's first do its close approximation to Mars. And that is October the 3rd. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. I'm getting the spinning ball on this for some reason. Probably a lot of people are on this, which is why. Okay, there it is. Now, in order for just look at that and look at the odds of Mars's complete orbit here and think of how perfectly timed and its velocity it had to be to get 0.195, which is Richard Hoagland's 19.5 astronomical units to Mars. And that's just incredible. If we zoom in a little bit here, we can see how incredibly perfectly timed. Because why isn't Mars here? Where my hand is, why isn't Mars here? Why isn't Mars over here? Why isn't Mars here? Right? And you'll see when it leaves. So I'm going to go, before I go to Earth, I'm going to show you that same philosophy that he has in his paper. Getting the spinning ball here. January. There you go. And when it leaves, let's come back in days when it crosses the orbit of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter has an orbit, this whole orbit of Jupiter. And you have to understand in physics, in quantum physics, the wave and the particle, so the planet and the orbital circle are the same. Do you understand that Jupiter's just under 12-year orbit? The chances of it being so close to Jupiter on this date, and I'm going to tell you what this date means in a bit, is so incredible. It's so remarkable that it could do that for Mars, and according to Loeb, Earth and Venus and Mercury as well is billions against it. Because Jupiter could be here, where my hand is here. It could be here. It could be here. It could be here. It could be way down here. So why is it when it finishes, it crosses Jupiter? And remember, when we did the harmony of the order on the birth of Jesus, he's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter seems to rule so many events historically on the planet, massive events. And this is one of the most important things in what Loeb understands. But what I understand is so much bigger than what he understands because he doesn't know how to do the kind of harmonic math that I do. But I find what he discovered really important in that when he places his calculations of odds of this perfect pairedness happening, he's saying based on that, this is an intelligent craft and it's going to drop off probes, which is, him thinking in his, uh, mathematical mind to the planets. Now, if I come all the way back here, I'm actually going to get rid of this image because I'm getting the spinning ball. I'm going to get you a solid image of my next graphic. And you're going to see that this thing is so perfect to the Christed energy. Watch this. Okay, so here we go. Okay. But sorry. So now what we see is 3i Atlas. Its closest approximation to Jupiter is the 25th of March, which happens to be Easter in 2035. Now that means that every single year that it's Easter, this alignment with Jupiter is in the Easter window no matter what year it is, because Easter only changes by a matter of days every year, and then Easter over great cycles, because it's on the lunar calendar, will keep coming back to the same date. So we have an Easter Jupiter alignment for 3i Atlas, which is absolutely stunning because we also have a Christmas winter solstice alignment for 3i Atlas. And I figured this out yesterday. The Easter part, the winter part, for December 25th, I'm going to demonstrate to you in a minute. But now, the odds of both of these alignments to the Christ is so impossible if this thing is just a random visitor from outside the solar system, which means outside the Oort cloud. And let me, before we go, well, I'll clarify the Oort cloud next. So let's just recognize this. The number of connections of Jesus to Jupiter. In fact, even the idea that the star Bethlehem was actually a Jupiter-Saturn alignment, which is one of the theories for the star Bethlehem, which I don't think is correct, but nevertheless, the number of connections to Jupiter and Christ are enormous. And we have an Easter date that is 2035. But remember, each Easter date, it doesn't matter what year it is, it's going to be on a calendar in this vicinity of Jupiter as a date. So our lunar calendar, if you really understand the lunar calendar, it doesn't keep accurate time by the year. It keeps accurate time overall And every so many years, like 12 or something years, I think it's about 12 years, which is equal to an orbit of Jupiter. That's really interesting because the lunar calendar will return in on itself about every 12 years, 11 to 12 years. And a Jupiter orbit is 4,332.58 days, 4332, which is 11.87 years. So the fact that that exists in concert with our moon is also remarkable. So let's go to now to the actual Christmas alignment of this thing, of our visitor. So you can actually see that. And I'm only just getting to the very beginning of this. This is going to get incredible when you see the final crescendo on this. So we go share. There we go. 3i Atlas. Okay, so let's go back to our model and this. Now we're going to come to Christmas or the solstice. So August, September. Wait, let's go to October. Now, October 23rd, this is where 591 is, right here. This, if I put my orbital ring of a planet with an orbit of 591 days is just inside of the orbit of Mars. This position on the 23rd of October, 2025, which happens to be my daughter Alira's birthday, which is incredible because her mom called out from position 591, which is the central point. I mean, to say if this thing is sending a very clear message, it's what it's pointed at that matters the most. Why is it crossing this line here? It's not going to go towards the sun. It's not crossing the planet straight into the sun and then passing the sun. It's passing position 591, which I've been talking about now for years. So let me show you the graphic on that so we can have this crystal clear. There it is. So this is incredible. I mean, this is utterly, utterly incredible that there's no way the astronomy community would know what 591 is. So there it is. My turquoise blue ring is my orbit of planet 591 using ratio mathematics, 591 to 68698, which is the orbit of Mars, 686.98 Earth days to go around the sun once. So why is Atlas, 33i Atlas, going there? It's incredible that this is even happening. It's incredible. It's like an arrow released from, the supreme intelligence of, I want to say, the galaxy, the solar system, because it's beyond the solar system. So this intelligence that's driving this is saying, look here, you're missing something. And when you understand the mathematics of the ratio of the orbit, when 591 years pass on Earth, 365 years pass on position 591, meaning it'll go around the sun 365 times for every 591 times on Earth. And the 591 cycle on Earth, let me go to that graphic, because we have lots of time. Here it is, right here. So, well, I want to show you this really clearly because we showed it last week, but it needs to be really clear because this cycle of 591 years on Earth marks the birth and then the enlightenment, the moment of enlightenment of some of the greatest enlightened figures in history. So we can see that if I start at the visions of the prophet Daniel and Ezekiel and Buddha's nirvana are all at 591 years before Jesus's crucifixion, and then 591 more years past that is the date of the Prophet Muhammad's journey through the seven heavens. So it's not his birth. This is mapped to that. So it would be the year 591. Now, let me show you on a calculator. Now, I've even gone back earlier. So we can go to the Hammurabi, and most people don't know what the Hammurabi is, which is really like a Moses. The Hammurabi was like a Moses who receives a stele tablet of laws of a code of ethics for humans to live by. So Moses is not the first one to receive a code of ethics for humans to live by in history. It's really the Hammurabi that does this. So every 591 years, this cycle happens. So let me show you my calculator here. So if I go to the year, hang on a second, let me go to my share calculator. We covered this actually in the inner circle earlier. The year 591 for Muhammad plus 591, we come to the year 1182, which is a period of major figures, like I think it's Swedenborg and possibly St. Francis, plus another 591 years. Anybody recognize this date? The Declaration of Independence is being created by truly enlightened beings. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington, etc. It's being drafted in 1773 and it's signed in 1776. This is a major thing. Why is it so major? Because as a document, just like Moses received a document, this was the first document that transferred power to the total mass of the population instead of a dictatorship, leadership. It's the first time in the history of the world that the people had all the power to vote and to decide on their elected officials and their leaders, and to give them the freedom of speech to disagree. I mean, this is unprecedented in history. People take this for granted today because they were born into this. But prior to this, you had monotheistic religions and state where state and religion were one. If you disagreed, off with the head. I mean, this was the beginning of freedom. Why is that within the 591 cycle? Now remember, when 591 years pass on Earth, planet 591 experiences 365 years. And the Bible tells us to look for the new heavens and the new earth. It says we have to look for it. So let me just, before I go on here, because this is going to get iconoclastic by the time we're done today, we look for, this is right, we look for new heavens and a new earth. This is the prophet. 2 Peter 3:13 says, but according to his promise, we look for new heavens and a new earth. Okay, so let's just put this up on the screen. And if you understand the concept of looking, see, it says right here, but according to his promise, let me just, let's just click on this one just to make it bigger. There we go. Right. But according to his promise, we look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. So we have to look. It means we have to be aware. And if you really understand, I mean, this 2 Peter 3:13 actually goes back it resonates way, way back into earlier prophets. In fact, Jesus is referring to um, uh, prophet. Yeah, Isaiah 65:17 um, says Isaiah 65:17. So let's go to Isaiah 65:17 speaks of God creating new heavens and a new earth. So I don't know if you're seeing my screen there properly when I change screens, so I'm just going to reload this. See, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. Okay, so that's the New International Version. Of course, I can go back to, King James, and it says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered." So is the arrow pointing? Let me go here, go back to loading my graphic. And is the voice of Crystal Sereda, the former Crystal Sereda, calling my name out at 591 days? Would this be temperately, meaning temperature wise, a great region to live? Well, we know Earth is theoretically getting too hot slowly. You wouldn't know that this summer much. There's been so much rain. But Mars, of course, doesn't have its atmosphere, but is extremely cold because it doesn't have an atmosphere. But would we call this the new Goldilocks zone for a planet if it suddenly hyperdimensionally appeared at an orbit of 591? Its temperature would probably, I would, just using ratio mathematics, it's just ratio. I could say the temperature of 591 would not get hotter than 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Paradise, the Garden of Eden. I mean, right there. So remember, if God is not a liar and the prophets are not deluded, God is creating a new heaven and new earth. A new heavens means whole new planets, heavens. And a new earth means a new place for humans to live. And what's peculiar about this is we're living in a time where the space technology to send humans to Mars is right around the corner. And this position is closer than Mars, and the arrow is pointing the way. The arrow is pointing the way. So let me go back now to our model, because we have, I just got to close some of my windows because I see my spinning ball. It's because I got too many windows open. Oh, here we go. We should probably revisit this too. So I'm going to have, but before I go to that, I'm going to revisit just for the record here. So I hear Jesus's voice last October 19th. Tell me to make this calculation here. And this calculation is to add 432 days. Interestingly, I woke up at exactly 4:32 a.m. this morning, Pacific time. I looked at the clock. October 19th, 2024, plus 432 days brings me to Christmas 2025, right? And um, uh, October 19th plus the orbit of Venus took me to June 1st. October 19th took plus 591 days, took me to June 2nd. And June 1st, of course, this year was the biggest solar event of the 25-year solar cycle that we're in, or the 20, I can't remember how many years the cycle is. I think we're in solar cycle 25. And that was the most enormous explosion on the sun. It was a three it was a 3 hour explosion on the sun, whereas a lot of X flares are very short-lived. They're super fast and they don't produce the same results that a very long, enormous explosion does. So we had solar flares all the way as far as Texas and the most spectacular auroras in the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere this planet's ever seen. And it happened on June 1st. So now my date says it takes me to Christmas 2025. So now we know what that means, because Christmas 2025 is going to yield the arrival of our visitor. So if I go here, click on this, and then we go to share screen. Okay, so let's go July, August. Still got my spinning ball today, which I don't normally have. September, October, November, December. This is when Loeb says the supposed comet is at its closest position to Earth in its transit through the solar system. The next day is winter solstice. That's just incredible. That is remarkable that it's so perfectly timed, because winter solstice is proprietary to this planet. It's not an accident. And of course, Christmas is there's Christmas Eve and there's Christmas. So I don't know what to say. Like, it got Easter. It's going to get Easter on its way out, which is again out here. Of course, it's not Easter in 2026, but it's Easter window date. Let me just keep going. February, March. There it is. March. There it is. The 25th of March. It crosses perfectly in line with Jupiter, which, as I mentioned, is going to be Easter in 2035. So this is phenomenal, phenomenal accuracy. Now, there's one more massive, massive alignment that's happening right before our eyes. And there's no way Loeb would understand this. And that has to do with, let me go all the way back to October. So October 3rd, right? Spinning ball. You know, I think Apple invented the spinning ball. 4, 3. There, October 3rd. So if we count from October 3rd to December 20th, which is its closest exact, this is done by, Harvard physicists, position to Earth, which is the day before the solstice, it's 78 days. 78 days. Now, I want you to note that a day of our planet's orbit around the sun is equal to a shaving less than 1 degree, as in it takes Earth 360 degrees to go around the sun once. So a day is a degree. So guess what 78 degrees is? You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe it. I mean, you're going to have to believe it. But okay, so this is like the icing on the cake. This is the massive crescendo. This is something that is the absolute of all absolutes, what this is. So let me show you. I have it first in written form, and then I'm going to show you what it actually looks like. Okay, so share screen. I'm going to show you what this looks like visually. So the first thing is that 78 is 4 times 19.5, which is 591 backwards, right? So in your 90-degree 4 quadrants in the 4 directions, you have 19.5 times 4 is 78. But 39 times 2 is 78, and 39 degrees is resurrection angle. Remember what this is. 39 degrees twice, rising in the east at 39 degrees, setting in the west at 39 degrees. In total degrees is 78 degrees. Remember, 78 days of transit is 78 degrees. So let me show you what this actually looks like. Right here, this is the iconoclasm. This is the absolute proof right here. This is it. This is what we're waiting for. So here we go. Jesus' resurrection at the, okay, first of all, let me come into my, so as you see my long blue line here is my 39-degree line to the east, which points to a rising body, hyperdimensional invisible planet in the skies between 38 and 39 degrees, which is a very precise thing because it's not exactly 39 and it's not 38, where Jesus appeared in his resurrected body at the Sea of Galilee here, where the temple of Mary of the Magdala temple was discovered here, right here. This is 39 degrees to the east. And also that same angle crosses right here, my red dot, the Coptic church where the Mother Mary appeared in her resurrected body in 1968 and was photographed and seen, and her body of light was photographed. For people who don't know, hundreds of photographs, I mean countless hundreds of photographs in a luminous body at resurrection angle in a resurrected body. And now 38 degrees to the west, the setting position, this blue and yellow line here, this is right here. I'm going to touch the line so you see it's right here. This line, 39 degrees to the west, is what runs right through where Mary Magdalene and her followers and her family landed in their boat in what would later become France. Right here, let me just, there it is, right there. That's where her boat, and this is where Christianity, in a very feminine form, sprouted itself in what would later become France, and they still have those old sites today, and those old churches are still there. And if we follow the line across the globe, of course, we're going to come right through the eastern United States. There has to be sacred sites along this line, and there is. But when we come to the end of the line, we come to the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, and right on the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. And we continue, we come to Tepeyac Hill, which is where the resurrected Mother Mary appeared to Juan Diego, December winter solstice, which was the 12th of the December back then on the calendar in the year 1531. So we covered this in the inner circle before, but this is twice 39 degrees, and 39 is 78. And that is the number of days and degrees that our visitor is going to transit through in its visit through our system. And that's the icing on the cake. I mean, this is such precise mathematics. I mean, it's such precise mathematics for it to have timed all this, all of it. I mean, yes, people will sleep. They'll just go back to TikTok. They will, because they want, I don't know, they want the president of the United States to make a former a press release that the cosmic beings are coming here, and they're going to, when it's going to get really, the first interesting date, of course, is the 3rd of October. So if I go to October 3rd, so there it's October 3rd. Let's kind of zoom in a bit here. I don't get this thing off center a bit. So again, our Earth will move 39 degrees twice, which is 78 degrees in 78 days between this point, which is its closest position to Mars, and then December the 20th. I just want to put this really clear again. And December 20th, right there, its closest position to Earth. That transit will be precisely 39 degrees twice, and rising at 39 degrees to the east, where Jesus resurrected, where the Mother Mary's body resurrected appeared, and 39 degrees to again to the west, which is where all the planets and stars set, is 78 degrees. This is just incredibly clear. This message is telling us to look for the new heavens and the new earth. Look, that's what the prophet Isaiah says, and that God is creating new heavens and a new earth. So I would say the new earth is 591, and that's where it's pointing to. Is the new earth suddenly going to appear hyperdimensionally, meaning like we're like fish under the water, and all of a sudden somebody above drops a ball, and it just suddenly you see the ball under the water? So that is the big one. And that means we have to have all eyes on this thing. There's no way the articles that are out on the internet, like I'll show you some of them. Let's go to the articles that suggest that our visitors might be, bad ETs coming here to make war with Earth, which is an absurd theory. But yet that's what happens when we know that an interstellar visitor is coming in our solar system and we have proof that it's intelligent. Our military prepares itself for the arrival. Of course it does, because it feels threatened that something intelligent is coming here. And in fact, the leading theory in ufology, and why mainstream scientists can't accept that it's really happening, is that they would, and I remember having this conversation with a NASA scientist, Joseph Newth III, way back in the 90s, that if something were coming from interstellar, we would see it coming way beyond the orbit of Jupiter. This thing is that we're seeing it, out by Jupiter's orbit right now, just inside Jupiter's orbit, and we would know it's coming, and we could calculate the time of arrival. That's what he told me. And it's happening right now, and yet in the media, you're hearing these stories of, this interstellar visitor is threatening, and we need to be prepared. I mean, that's what is also in Loeb's paper. In fact, if I look at Loeb's paper, so let's go to Here's the actual paper. So for the rest of the time, we can visit his actual paper, which is connected in all of the news articles that, in a whole, they're hilarious. They're saying, it might be bad aliens, so we have to be, prepared. So when you go through his paper, and this is a physics paper, it has some mathematics in it, and it goes into the percentages of the odds of this thing being by chance in these alignments to the planets being next to nothing, that there's no way that it could do all this and be so coordinated with its closest approaches, right? You see, here they are right here. Venus 0.65 astronomical units. An astronomical unit is 93 million miles. Mars 0.19. Jupiter 0.36. Like that's just incredible. It can't do this. It has to be so timed. And then to pass through 78 degrees, twice 39, which is 4 times 19.5, is utterly, utterly miraculous. But when we come to the point, this is it. This is the point of intercept. How would we intercept this thing if to launch and go up there and meet it? So look at this. He wrote departure Earth last year on the 19th of July. The 19th of July is the date of Apollo, and the moon landing was the 20th of July, and the separation from the lunar module separates on the 19th of July. They land on the moon, and this is the what is known in Egypt as the heliacal Sirius rising date. The heliacal Sirius rising date is July 19th, which is when Sirius rises with the sun paired on the eastern horizon at the site of the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramids, 3 pyramids. So why did he pick that date? And he's saying we would have to launch on that date from Earth, which is another coincidence, to have this all, the timing of our spacecraft and their capabilities to meet it on, in 2025, October 28th, right? So this is what he's saying right here. But he's also telling you that we need to go up there and meet it and intercept it because there's no doubt it's in his mind, it's an alien. In his mind, it's an alien probe. In my mind, it has all of the timings of the Christed energy. It has all of it because it has Easter, it has Christmas, and it has the 39-degree angle rising in the east and setting in the west, which makes 78. That's all ancient Egyptian mathematics, which coincide with the resurrection of Christ appearing at the 39-degree angle to the east in the Sea of Galilee 3 times. So you just can't argue this stuff. There's no way to argue it. So anyway, with that, we should have all eyes on this. It's possible. It's possible. It'll fly right on by. And the message is in the data. We need to look. The message is look at 591. Look where I'm pointing. There's something there you can't see. That's the message. And what you can't see rises in the east and sets in the west at the resurrection angle, which is where, and the cycle of 591 years that I demonstrated took us through the prophets to the Declaration of Independence. I mean, this is all just incredible. So all eyes on this thing. And anyway, this for the next 2 weeks, we're finishing our, I just want to show where we're finishing on our frequencies for the cycle as we're finishing on the the seraphim, Earth to seraphim frequencies in the inner circle. So we're going here. Again, this is 591, where Crystal called out my name. This is where it's headed. And there's Mars, Earth, Venus, Ascension Planet 139, the cherubim, which we're just finishing. So now we're doing seraphim frequencies for the next 2 weeks. And then we'll take a break in the inner circle and reconvene in September because things are going to be really heating up in September with this. So with that, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for looking, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.